I come to cleanse the land of all living things. Grandfather!
Prey is an immersive first-person shooter game that starts off with the player character looking into a mirror before being whisked away from comfort, seeing the Earth from space, on a journey involving aliens of a much higher state of being. Along the way, you discover more about yourself, and solve issues with your unique weaponry that can often help you navigate the area. The game features many of the strongest quality of its predecessors, while introducing new, bold mechanics that make it stand out from the crowd, making use of interdimensional power, gravity, and a strong affiliation with your wrench. Wait, hang on. Is this... Let me just check. So yeah, it's kind of a lot like Half-Life. Oh, and I didn't even mention which Prey I'm talking about. Both of them. Both of them are pretty much like that, which is kind of impressive. But they're not just Half-Life rip-offs. Like I said, they both work from the foundations that their predecessors had laid before them. And they both do innovate and push forward some pretty interesting ideas. In fact, in Prey 2006, we were playing with Portals a whole year ahead of Portal. They even used the same color scheme. I mean, like, come on guys, what's going on there? So now who's ripping off who? Valve. And as for Prey 2017, they've got you mainly using a gun that is non-offensive, just incapacitates the enemies, and can also help you navigate your way through the different maps and different situations. And not only that, it's used as an in-game narrative reason for why you should inspect certain areas and find hidden secrets or different ways around a task, which is pretty damn good. It could be argued that Prey 2017 recycles a lot of older ideas, but I think the way that it implements them is quite inspiring and a positive step forwards for the FPS genre. I mean, it's kind of more an immersive sim because the actual first-person shooting part is the weakest part of the game for sure. But I would much rather see the ideas from Prey being put into FPSs rather than the ideas from Diablo or Destiny with all this randomly generated tat that you just need to throw away. Both games have body horror elements to them. And both games get their title, Prey, from a throwaway line about the human race being the prey for the alien race. In fact, both cases are such a throwaway line that I'm just gonna have to show you a drawing of it instead, because I recorded over 35 hours in total for this video, and I'm not gonna be able to find such a small, minute line amongst that, especially when I'm not getting paid for this. This is just me, so sorry. Enjoy this drawing instead. So, what is Prey actually about? I'm not gonna get into spoilers with this because I know that they're both quite old games, but you should be playing them yourself. They are both fantastic and both deserve to be played and experienced on their own merits, not just from what I've said through this dingy little YouTube video. Prey is about what it is to be human. Prey 2006 explores that in a geographical sense. Playing as a Native American, it highlights the fact that you are connected to this world, and that you do have some bond with the environment around you. And that's not just because he's a Native American. I mean, all humans do. And the fact that he's taken so far away from home and put back there, I think reinforces the sense that humans are connected to this world on a spiritual level and a physical level. 2017 shows that idea in a more psychological manner. Your choices are what makes you human. And sometimes your choices will contradict one another. That is also very human. You can choose to make yourself better and stronger, faster, with modifications, or you can try and beat the game without any modifications. There's even a trophy for it. The way that Prey 2017 offers up the options is commendable. It's got morality without a morality slider, which is just perfect. When you choose to do something, air quotes, bad, you can always go back on that sort of mentality and choose to do something good later. You're not locked into one choice with your morality slider. When you're doing bad guy things, you're not made into a bad guy. You can always change whenever you want. Now, fans could argue that the whole game coming down to a choice between one option and another could be perceived to be kind of a bad thing, but I really like that. I like the fact that no matter what you did before, you still come down to the same choice. You're not locked into the good ending and the bad ending because of your previous choices. You're still faced with the same moral dilemma at the end, no matter what you chose for the smaller moral dilemmas beforehand. Obviously, when I played, I saved and I chose both moral choices, and they didn't actually really highlight too much of a difference, which I think is interesting. The game chose to take it into a different direction. Again, I won't spoil anything, but it started to raise a different question that would have been going on in the back of your head for the majority of the game without you really ever thinking about it too dominantly. I will highlight a smaller moral dilemma just to help illustrate this whole idea. You can go down into the escape pods and you get a call from a man that is stuck in an escape pod. He says that he is trapped in the tube because something has been blocking it from the outside. He requests that you go outside and get rid of the obstruction, and then come back inside and press the launch button to send him off. Seems fair enough. You're trying to escape this horrible mess, so yeah, should help him. But then you also discover that he didn't help anyone. The room is filled with dead people, and he just saved his own skin. I think there's one other person in there with him, but he could have saved like 5 others. So you get the choice to just press the launch button with the door closed, and he claims that that would just obliterate him. But you can go out and help him, and it's a choice to, kill him or set him free. It's a very video game choice, I know, but the idea is that you can do that, and it doesn't set you onto a path for the narrative. It is just a small moment, a very clear white and black A or B choice, but it doesn't affect anything. It just affects you, the player. You sat there thinking about your process and your own personal story. It doesn't change the overarching narrative, which is how these choices should be. No one else knows that you would have done that, so it doesn't really affect what anyone else would think of you, because no one would know. It's just a personal choice, and there's plenty of these personal choices. Obviously, some of them are known by other people and are quite clear, and those tend to be the ones that have more depth to them. I just chose a black or white A or B choice because those are the types of choices that usually pop up into games and force you into one track or the other. The game also takes the same sort of mentality for problem solving in general. For example, I wanted to get into a locked room, but it was discovered that the key for the locked room was inside the locked room. There was no other way in. There's no vent shaft going in, there's no secret tunnel leading in, there's no drop down in. The only way in is through that door. So I discovered that a cleaning robot, or some kind of robot, lets itself into that room every half hour. And the game runs on its own clock, but it's in real time. So every half hour, supposedly on the dot, the robot will let itself in. Great. Okay, I'll do some stuff for half an hour and I'll come back right on the half hour mark. I did that and the robot didn't arrive. It turns out that I must have destroyed it in another room, meaning that it couldn't come, and I didn't have the ability to repair the robot to send it on its way. So the door's just locked then. Well, no, there's two more choices. They don't seem so obvious at first, but one choice would be to use alien powers and sneak in through a small crack in a window. Well, I say a small crack, a crack that you need to make. But you could turn into, say, a cup, or a cigar, or something like that, and roll in through that small crack that you make. But I was playing the game without alien powers, so what's this third choice? Use a Nerf gun. You shoot the door button from the other side through that small crack, and, you know, open sesame, the door's open. Pretty much every room or every puzzle has this sort of mentality where the player is given a vast amount of choice, and the way that you do it doesn't matter. The fact that you do it does. You progress and you get to your goal any way that suits you. You're creating your own story as the player. It's not being written for you, it's not just a follow this and do this. It's not any of that Mass Effect stuff where you just are a good guy or a bad guy. You don't just sneak or just do one path. You can mix and match the whole way through. It's great. So Prey 2017 is made by Arcane Studios, and they've got a pretty good track record of this immersive sim style. It's impressive that seemingly they came out of nowhere with Dishonored and then have just pretty much hit it out of the park every single time. Every single game that they make is improving on their previous formula. This is probably their best game, in my opinion. There's a lot more depth here than in their previous games. And the same goes for Prey 2006. It was led by 3D Realms of Duke Nukem and all that. You know, it ran on id Tech, so you can see the strong connections to those classic FPSs. You're jumping around, shooting rockets at people, you're taking guns out of containment labs, and you are blasting away horrible beasts. But you're doing it while flipping around with gravity, and you're doing it while walking on the ceiling and sneaking through tiny portals and piloting these Halo-esque spaceships. And, you know, it's got a big explosive ending, it's got a final boss, it's got, I think, 2 bosses during the game, which is kind of a small amount. It's actually quite a short game. I really feel that they were trying to move on to bigger things after this proof of concept. But obviously it was cut short. So, what happened to Prey 2? Well, I think it's important to look back at the origins of the original Prey. The game was first announced in 1995. That's a whole 11 years before it would ever come out. I guess starting off the big 3D Realms trend. But the game was set forth and it had a lot of ideas, a lot of amazing ideas that now aren't so impressive, but at the time were groundbreaking. And obviously it retained a lot of the groundbreaking ideas, but it came at a price. It came at the price of constant delays. I guess the technology just wasn't up to match the ambition of the game. It seems that the devs definitely wanted to have the game have a heavy focus on the portals, but at the time it just wasn't really all that possible to have the whole game centered around portals, like Portal eventually would be. The head engineer, William Scarborough, would comment, "In hindsight, portal tricks such as these should be used as tricks, not as an engine paradigm." Again, obviously, in 2007, Portal would sort of disprove that, but you've got to bear in mind that this was a whole 11 years prior. The game just wouldn't work the way that they wanted it to, and the game sort of got shelved, with rumours that it would be cancelled entirely. Thankfully, not true. In 2001, when the Portal technology was much more feasible and some of the groundwork had already been laid out, 3D Realms decided to return to the concept of Prey, and they contracted Human Head Studios to work on it, using the id Tech 4 engine. From there on, it seems as though the game was worked on pretty much as typically as you would expect for a game to be worked on, and it got to be released in 2006. Prey ends on a cliffhanger, saying that it will be continued, as you can see here in Japanese, because I played it in Japanese. Shortly after the release of the game, Scott Miller, the head of 3D Realms, confirmed that Prey 2 was indeed in development. This sequel would see you play as a different character who was abducted and lost 7 years of memory, bumping into the previous main character Tommy, and eventually going on to uncover his memory, all while doing bounty hunting missions. But with Prey having been in development hell for 11 years, and the follow-up to Duke Nukem 3D following suit, in 2009 3D Realms wasn't doing so well, with the mentality that games will be done when they're done, which I believe is very admirable, just wasn't cost effective for them, and 3D Realms ended up needing to sell off some IPs. With Duke Nukem and all its back catalogue being handed over to Gearbox Software, and the rights to the Prey franchise being acquired by Bethesda Softworks, which is owned by id Software's parent company, ZeniMax. But that didn't save Prey 2 from development hell. It wasn't until October 2014 that it was really, truly mentioned again, where the Bethesda Softworks vice president confirmed that Prey 2 would be cancelled, saying, "It was a game we believed in, but we never felt that it got to where it needed to be. We never saw a path to success if we finished it. It just wasn't up to our quality standard, and we decided to cancel it. It's no longer in development." Also saying, "It's a franchise we still believe we can do something with. We just need to see what that something is." For 3D Realms, working on Prey until they got it into a state that they were truly happy with, culturally was beneficial. We got a well-received game with many mechanics that were ahead of their time, even 11 years after their inception. But the same work mentality just wasn't working across the board. Duke Nukem famously turned into a mush, a big mess of bad choices. It seems as though working on a game like that has a 50-50 result, and I guess that's a chance that Bethesda just wasn't willing to take. And so the game was shelved, dismantled, and reimagined. That's something that Bethesda Softworks Vice President Pete Hines mentioned turned out to be Prey 2017. ZeniMax handed the reins over to Arcane, one of their development teams, who also took the chance to make it a spiritual successor to System Shock. Because, I guess, why not? System Shock is quite clearly a major influence on that studio, so to be given a space-themed IP, it sort of just makes sense for them to pay massive homage to it. In Arcane's Prey, the plot takes place on a parallel timeline. For example, one instance that changes is the assassination of JFK is failed. And I guess certain aspects like that, changing in the history, change the course of human progression, and lead us to a state where we're able to send Russians and Americans working together into space. So, is Prey 2017 a true successor to Prey 2006? That's kind of up to personal opinion. In my opinion, yes, it is. Many of the same themes are carried over, they're just expressed in a different way. What was great and groundbreaking for 2006 just simply wouldn't translate to the modern landscape of gaming, whereas Arcane's version offers up a similar experience shown through different mechanics. Mechanics that I think gamers are feeling quite nostalgic for, as the immersive sim sort of got blown over by corridor shooters, which ironically Prey is more similar to. But I guess the ebb and flow of gameplay ideas and what you can do with a game just changes our expectations. The corridor shooters are based on the concept of trying to sell games as a movie narrative, but now we know that games can outreach the narrative structure of a movie, and the realms of possibility that were shown in those earlier immersive sims are becoming much more important and enjoyed by gamers once more, which is a brilliant thing. Obviously there's still room for corridor shooters and games that have a very set narrative, but when tackling the concept of human morality, what it is to be a human, it's great to allow the player to question their own personal morality through choices, and give the player a lot more agency, thus reflecting upon the different moralities. So yes, for me, Arcane's Prey is a true successor to 3D Realms Prey. Though I would really love to see 3D Realms Prey get a sequel and call it Prey 2, and then it can just continue that story separately, and people can get really confused about what's going on with Prey, and Prey 2, and then hopefully Arcane Studios would also release a Prey 2, and it would just be great to see these different ideas going in different directions with the same concept. I think taking the same concept and remixing it is an idea that game studios should work on. I mean, it happens with music all the time. You can hear a cover of a famous song and it will highlight a different aspect of the song when it's shown by a different artist. I think that this could be a great chance for games to do the same. Think of all the possibilities. This video has been purposely kind of skin deep. I don't want to go too much into the mechanics and moralities because for Prey 2017 I feel that it's a very personal experience, one that you should just experience yourself. The release of Arcane's Prey was met with kind of disappointing sales figures. The sales were 60% down from Dishonored 2. I think that this sort of game and narrative telling should be further embraced. Kind of this is just a big advert for Prey 2017. If you've not already played it, I really reckon that you should go out and have the experience. With games like Vampire the Masquerade getting a sequel finally, I think it shows that generally we want this type of game, but you need to go and play it. If you've not already played Prey 2006 or Prey 2017, I urge you to try them both. I'd say that the same goes for Deus Ex. I think if more people were buying these games, then they could expand further out. Deus Ex is famous for just ending abruptly, but if you're not buying the games, then they're not gonna work on them. They're not gonna make them into these bigger things that they should be. If you want complex storytelling, definitely check out this game, and hopefully it will fund further complex storytelling further down the line. So yeah, that's been my brief history on Prey, and I guess the Prey franchise. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out some of my other videos, and click like, subscribe. I'm kind of inconsistent with my release dates, just like 3D Realms, but hopefully just like Prey 2006, it's worth it. So see ya.